Hello to all my beautiful couples and to any therapists that are listening to this. It's Lottie here. I'm in Morocco, in Marrakesh, and I'm having a little break. And I just wanted to make sure that I did the live like I normally do on the last Tuesday of every month, even though I'm away. I didn't want to miss one. And another reason is that we've been doing the part 1, 2, and this is 3 of infidelity and how difficult that can be. Now, in part 1, we talked about what infidelity was. And in part 2, we talked about some of the repair that we're doing. So tonight, I'm going to talk a little bit more randomly about quite a lot of different things, and then hopefully do a summary at the very end. So welcome, and I hope you enjoy the replay of this when it's downloaded to you. So let's start with some stats, which is not my bag really, but I just want to talk about some stats that are going on. So in 2017-18, infidelity rates were soaring. Okay, so 57% of males were having an affair and 54% of women. And actually 2023, that became 50-50. So there wasn't a margin between one gender having more affairs or one affair than the other. When we look at the statistics for divorce, we're nearly up to 60% of couples within infidelity divorce. They don't give their relationship the second chance or the second contract that can be available to them if they choose to. And sometimes these decisions are made when decisions really shouldn't be made, when they're in the middle of the crisis and they are making decisions that actually might not be the best for the relationship. But we make decisions on the evidence and the information that we have at the very time. So basically 1 in 5 British people are actually having affairs, which the statistics for that is very, very high at the moment. And I see that in my therapy room with couples coming to see me, wanting to work it through, trying to work out what the best to navigate that really, really difficult part. And I'm going to be talking about that a little bit more in a minute. I want to talk about the brain first of all, and I'm going to read this from my book, if that's okay with everybody. So your hippocampus is responsible for memory and processing, okay, and distinguishing with the past and the present. But when an affair has happened, the amygdala shrinks. So it's very, very difficult to actually sit in a place of reasoning or understanding or regulation or the opportunity to have your say in a more regulated way. It always comes out with that rage part of it that's attached to it. Or sometimes people will withdraw and go really quiet. There's a combination of them both. But when we think of the hippocampus being our sensory processing part of our brain, if that shrinks, then there's not an opportunity for the hippocampus to work for us. It's actually working against us, and it doesn't give us the opportunity to share rationally what we're asking for within the relationship. And as people know who have been through this trauma, that's what it is. It's a trauma. And what we're looking at the moment is what the trauma responses will be generated because of this event happening. So the hippocampus will shrink due to the traumatization of the event that's happened. Okay, and that can be an emotional affair or a physical affair or both. And like I said, it's very difficult to distinguish between the past and the present at that time when all this information is being given to you. But don't forget, when somebody's had an affair, when they tell you about the affair, there's a bit of relief that actually it's not on their shoulders anymore. Because even though it sounds really like it's a lot of fun, there's a degree of fear that runs through that. But because we're in limerence at that time, the fear gets diminished. So we don't fear it as much. Whereas if you're in a relationship that you're okay to be in, the limerence flourishes for between 3 months and 18 months, and that's okay. And then it diminishes so that we can choose that person for the person we want to be with. So if we've got a reduced hippocampus, we have fragmented memories, and that might as well be about the memories that you've created as a couple. They can be quite distorted from what you thought they were. Did we have a good time then? Did we actually go to that party together? Were we actually demonstrating that we were together in a way that shows that it's real? So when we look at the memories, because of the distortion, we then find that we have so much more imagery and so much more visualization, so flashbacks of the event, because our brain is sort of doing this, going backwards and forwards to our intended, who the person we were with, and our memories for that, but also the memories that have been told to us about the affair. Our brain is absolutely distorted at the moment. It can be really, really difficult to assemble a thought process. So this is why, and I will talk about some questions later on about why people say you're actually being quite dramatic about this, or you're being oversensitive about this. Absolutely not being oversensitive. This is a contracted relationship that you've decided to go into, whether you've written that down or not. It doesn't matter whether you're married or not. You've said it's me and you, okay, unless you've done an open relationship or open contract, it's me and you. When you go outside of that, the distortion of the brain is trying to tell you to keep safe, because actually where you are at the moment doesn't feel safe enough. So we've got a potential threat that continues for quite a while. So what we're looking for is the prefrontal cortex, okay? So let's just go back a little bit before I go on to that bit. So after experiencing infidelity, and whether that's emotional or physical, you may find yourself feeling over anxious about absolutely everything. And it'd be the smallest thing that never even you considered before. But actually now you're hypervigilant. There's a what we call the autonomic nervous system that's been set off. So it's a fire alarm. There's something happening. There's a threat. I'm not going to be safe enough. And so some things that you would have thought, oh, don't really matter about that, become very, very heightened. Everything seems very, very sensitive. So your amygdala is the fire alarm, okay? And what it's doing, it's gone into overdrive after the betrayal. So what it's doing, your amygdala is scanning. It's doing this again and again. Am I safe? Can I say what I want to say? Am I getting the answers that I think make sense or are the truth? So you're looking for clues, you're looking for evidence, and you're also looking for signs of danger. The thing with the amygdala, it cannot tell you the difference between real threat or perceived. It's just a degree of danger. A threat is a threat. So even though we know an affair has happened, your amygdala is not actually saying this is calming down. It doesn't know the difference. So it will feel your cortisol, your adrenaline, your vasopressin. It will feel all of those chemicals rush into your body, and it will take you into the fight or flight response, which it's supposed to do. You know, biologically, that's where we're set up to protect ourselves. And actually, this threat of infidelity is so huge that actually our body takes us into that response automatically. Just want to mention partners, okay? So if there has been an infidelity, they are also hypervigilant, not as much so, but they are waiting for your responses so that they can see how to act themselves, okay? So when your partner might say to you, you're being irrational or you're being oversensitive, what they're trying to do is calm that nervous system of you, which irritates you because actually your nervous system is really working to its best at the moment, because actually there is a threat. There has been a threat. Maybe the threat is over, and we need to work out whether that is within therapy, because therapy is about you two coming to therapy to work it out, not the triangulation of the other person being in that relationship with your partner still. So you are looking out for your partner's tone of voice, facial expressions. Are they coming home late? Is the phone going off all the time? This is the autonomic nervous system that's being set off. It's like a trigger again and again and again. And what we're looking for is fight or flight, okay? Freeze, flop, or fawn. Your body will be going into those different processes again and again. I'll say that again: fight or flight, flop, freeze, or fawn, okay? And fawn can be quite confusing. So when we think about that, okay, and we put that all together, whilst your amygdala is working itself out to the best of its capability, which is really clever, your hippocampus has shrunk. It's actually less than it was because it's trying to work out the process of the amygdala, trying to make sense of it because it's a threat. But actually the hippocampus, the memory, the processing, the distinguishing from the past or the present is actually diminished. So trying to work out what you were doing as a couple all those years, it seems like it doesn't exist. What were we together? you know, it's a very strange question, especially if you've been together sort of 15 to 25 years. You're going, what were we together? What was real? What was not real? So your brain is actually trying to process that again and again. And I want to normalize that. That's what's got to happen. And it's very frightening. We need lots and lots and lots of support from the partner, the repair that needs to be done immediately after an affair. Okay. And the person who hasn't had the affair will not be listening to your repair whatsoever. They won't be interested, but you need to keep vigilant for that person to be able to come back online to hear you eventually. And that will take some time. So when I talk to my clients, we talk about accepting that this is part of their script if they're deciding to stay together. We're then looking for forgiveness for the relationship and for themselves and for the partner. So there's a mixed bag there. When I talk to couples, they say things like, I guess 5 years ago, I stopped caring about my relationship. I was too invested in the children or my career, and I just switched off from it. And the expectation of switching off is when you decide to switch back on, the other person will still be there. They probably won't. And what we're doing is getting them to process, where were they both about 5 years ago? What was happening to them? What took over? You know, it could have been family responsibility. It could have been illness. It could have been children. It could have been differences between you. You're starting to really come into that power struggle again, and instead of actually talking about it more, you decided to ignore each other more. And from that process we get what we call the cup of tea syndrome, where somebody will come up to your partner and actually show them some attention. And don't forget, we are not having the affair. Usually we're not having an affair because our partner isn't good enough, because our partner goes into free fall. It must be my fault. It must be something that I did. And actually, it's something to do with the self. What's happened to me? What is my loss, my unmet need, my lack of attention, my lack of love? Am I lovable? So we've got to look what we call it the differentiated person. The I first, then we look at you as a we. Okay, that's so important. The most strongest feeling that you will have when somebody has an affair that you are in a relationship with is you are an I. You suddenly realize that the we that actually came together like this doesn't really exist in the way that you thought of. And actually it feels like a fantasy. It never was us. It was always me and you, and we made things work. Actually, the differentiated I is the part of us that actually develops and grows as an individual whilst being in the relationship. So if we're giving ourselves over to something else in the relationship, whether that's children, family, elderly parents, whatever that might be, we've got to stay vigilant before an affair and not switch off from each other. And then we look at trust. So trust for me in my therapy room with my clients, and this has been proven that it takes up to a year for the trust to actually start coming back online again. Because we've got the hippocampus that needs to grow because it's shrunk. We've got the amygdala that's got to work out all the sensory processes that go towards helping each other work out what was real and what wasn't. So if you think about when we were at Julie's party, and that were you texting her, but we danced on the dance floor and you were very attentive and you were fantastic with the children, but were you texting her as well? So all these lovely images and anniversaries and parties and films, and they will all have a connotation to infidelity. And we then have to make a new script. So while we're holding vigil for the couple, we, as a therapist, I hold vigil for the couple, but I want the person who's had the affair to hold vigil for at least 3 months solid. And then we work out how that's going to go forward. Okay. So Esther Perel's work is really fantastic. When we've had an affair, we can actually look at some of our healing and give the clients this opportunity to go back to go forward. So we will be looking at the affair. That can't be put under the carpet. But if we do some of that work in therapy, we can then go forward with being able to say, right, okay, what's your relationship vision? What do you want that to look like? And obviously this is not overnight. This is some work that needs to be done and some processes that need to be processed. and trusting yourself again, of making the right decisions for yourself, and then including your partner eventually. And the partner who's had the infidelity needs to find a space for themselves to get support. That support cannot come from your partner. They are incapable of giving you that support at the moment. But what we're looking for is for everything to be safe again. Let's get in that nook there so we can cuddle each other and be okay with each other. It won't be like that for a while, but it can be like that. And in my experience working with couples, if there's an opportunity to repair, to accept, to forgive, and then trust, the relationship has never been so inviting. And the reason for that is, if you can talk about this in the way that it is, and the pain that it causes, and the opportunities that it can manifest, you can actually become much stronger as a couple, really united with each other. And I've seen it myself in my practice. So the prefrontal cortex is the reasoning part of our brain, okay? And it's the decision making. It controls the impulses. But when we've had a trauma like this, we are dysregulated, and what we've got to try to do is come back to this part of our brain. Okay, our reactive brain is all over the place back here, but our frontal lobe is the part that we can actually go, I'm going to settle for a bit. I'm actually going to think of myself for a bit. What do I want? What do I need? So when we know that this trauma comes from fear-based, your reactions will not all the time be in proportion for the situation that's right in front of you. Okay, I'm not talking about the affair, but there will be occasions where there'll be something that wouldn't have even bothered you, not even a little tiny bit, okay? But the situation would have been a normalized situation before, but you've gone, nuclear, okay? And we have to allow for that, because the opportunity to be able to be yourself is so important within this process. Because at the moment you're scanning for different things. You're scanning for the truth. You're scanning for evidence. You've become the best detective that you've ever become. And what we're trying to do is allow for that to settle before you make any decisions, and give yourself the opportunity to regulate yourself. We're talking about the autonomic nervous system here. We're talking about fight or flight. We're talking about threat. We're talking about fear. So we've got to calm that down a little bit. And that takes weeks, if not months, for that to come back online again. So let's look at the brain, and let's look at some of the consequences of how we act when we are in this trauma place. So you are making too much of a big deal of this. First of all, no, you're not. Okay, this is a big deal. Somebody going to have a liaison with somebody else, and I talk about in the other infidelity, was about micro infidelity, where we're maybe a little bit flirtatious, or we've sent a couple of texts, or we've sent a text to Friends Reunited, or just a little tiny thing that we actually don't share with our partner, but we know it's not quite right. Otherwise we probably would. Jane spoke to me today. We had coffee in the cafeteria. You would normally just say that conversation, but if it's not known, then what micro affairs going on? This can cause a real rupture within the relationship, because you're starting to be disloyal to your partner. You might even talk about your partner to this new person, which is disloyal. And we don't want that to happen. We want you to stay as close enough to not share with other people, but have enough autonomy outside of the relationship to be yourself. But that doesn't mean talking about your partner behind their back. We need the partner to show more remorse, the one who's had the affair. I sometimes get couples come in, and the partner who's had the infidelity is finding it really difficult to be sorry for it. And the reason for that is because actually the affair was fun. What they're sorry for is the trauma and the hurt and the despair that runs through not just the partner, but now the whole family that's finding out about this infidelity. And there's so much repair to do. For the person who's had the infidelity, they start with their partner first, hold vigil for that, and then later on they need to hold vigils for the family if they're going to stay together, because the family need to forgive them as well and come back online with them. Otherwise you've got a ruptured community. When you're told you're too sensitive, you need to ignore that. Okay, there is no such thing, I don't believe, as too sensitive. You're sensitive. Okay, and this threat is full of sensitivity, vulnerability. Your actions will not purvey you being okay at the moment. But I do want to caveat that with you're not going crazy. Everything that you're feeling and thinking and your vibe that's happening to your body is absolutely real. So if your life partner is saying to you, are we going to keep talking about this forever? Absolutely not. But while this is going on, you are going to be talking about this for a long, long time. Okay. So this is why I do 3 months. We need to look at it. Okay. Where are we holding vigil? Is it enough? Is it been felt? Is it been known? Has it been quite contrived? So it's really obvious that something different's being done. So I'll give you an example. One of my clients had an affair. And then he started doing more housework and he started taking the kids to school. That did not hit base at all, because she'd realized now that actually, why wasn't he doing more in the first place? Why was I doing everything? I'm holding this space, this mental load, while he goes off and has fun. And don't forget, this is not gender-based. That could be the other way around. If we were talking about a career move or somebody looking after their family, we're looking at the process of, I suddenly realized that I'm not holding space for myself. I'm holding space for somebody else's dreams while they go off and fulfill theirs. And what we've got to do is bring that back and find out what balance we can find. So nobody's being too sensitive at this process when they first find out. Another thing that sometimes said is let it go. Just, can we let it go now? Can we not talk about it now? No, it's really obvious that the person who's had the infidelity is feeling shame. Okay, they are feeling really dysregulated themselves, and actually bringing it up again and again and again is making them feel uncomfortable. Okay, think about it from the person who's just found out. Okay, it's new news to that person. You've rehearsed it, you've been there, and now they've got this information. So they're going to go through this whole plethora of working it all out for themselves and for the relationship. So letting it go is not an option at the moment because it's fear-based and the threat is very much still there. Has the relationship with the other person finished? Has an email or anything been sent to say that actually you cannot contact this person anymore? We negotiate that in therapy, because if we don't do that, the person on the outside will think that actually there's an opportunity, and they might have thought this was an opportunity for them. They maybe have met someone for the first time thinking, I could have a relationship with this person. They could leave their partner and we could be an item. That might not have been in the person who had the infidelity. That might not be in their mind at all. It was what it was at the time, but now they feel there's a threat to their family and their partner. They don't want to have anything to do with that other person. And this negotiation of sending something together consolidates actually the trust being built between both of them. And then we need to realize it's unreasonable not to be able to talk about this. Yeah. So even though I do believe in my analogy, which is not great, I know, but we are not in prison forever. If we've had an infidelity and it's a one-off infidelity, we are not in prison forever. We need the opportunity to be forgiven. We need the opportunity for it to be less talked about. But I always want to leave a tiny gap in that door for the person who sometimes will wobble, will sometimes see a car number plate that says that person's name, will be sitting there hearing something on a film that's all about infidelity. And what I want the person to do is hold vigil before the other person has to mention it. So if, as the time goes on and you've decided to stay together and your partner's looking quite, she's languishing a little bit, she's very quiet, she or he, I want you to go up and say, are you okay? Tell me what you're thinking about. Give them that empathy, give them that opportunity. Do not wait for them to come to you and say something like, I want to talk about the infidelity 5 years ago. I'm feeling quite wobbly at the moment. And the reaction, the response is key to how you two will maintain that relationship. If it's, why are you bringing that up again? It will shut down that person. What we want to hear is, tell me how wobbly you're feeling. What do you need from me right now? Such beautiful, intimate stuff. And if we can create that around the relationship and give the relationship an opportunity to flourish, then this relationship could be stronger than it ever will be. So remember that the trauma response is not a choice. Okay, this is our ancestry, our biological DNA that takes us to a place of threat, and our body does the rest. So it's not a choice when this threat and this fear and this overwhelm and this cortisol times 1,000 enters or reignites in our body. So the inevitability is it will be really scary for the person who's just heard the news that you've been having an affair. And they need to start to think about, how am I going to look after myself? Not how am I going to regulate myself? How am I going to be okay with this? What we're looking for is, how can I look after myself? Okay. And I do believe that we do need to share this with someone outside of ourselves. Some people don't. They keep it completely tight and they don't tell anybody else. But where are you getting the support? Because in the very beginning, the two people can't be a support for each other. It feels very difficult to talk exactly how you want to talk, because the rage is there, the complex unprocessed stuff of this is there, because the amygdala is just going, this is a threat, this is a threat, no matter what's happening, I don't need to know what's happening, it's a threat. And the hippocampus has gone, yeah, I'm going to hide for a little while because I'm actually not sure I like this and I don't like the processing side of it, so I'm just going to shut down for a little while. It's not helpful that our brain does that, but what it's doing is trying to heal. Yeah, so the mistrust and the confusion and the despair, it's absolutely times billions. You just think about all the lack of oxytocin and vasopressin at the moment. We've got more cortisol, adrenaline, dopamine that's kicking off. These are strong, strong chemicals, and they are going to be targeting the person who has just told us. And the person who's had the infidelity sometimes feels a little bit lighter. They've been holding this for such a long time, and they are now ready to heal. They want to go, I'm sorry I did this. I'm sorry that this happened. I know that I've really hurt you. But the person who's just heard that information, they're not ready to hear any of that. They might go quiet. They might be completely extreme in the sense that their nervous system is not coping at all. And the extremeness is the trauma, which, again, like I say, you haven't got a choice how you're triggered. Could be very silent, which can be scary for both partners, or it can be very volatile and can be scary for both partners. So while we're in infidelity mode, we are in survival mode for sure. Okay, your brain is doing its job. So remember that when you feel like you're absolutely going crazy and your brain cannot hold on to one image or one sensory process about yourself, how can I look after myself? Your brain is taken up by the infidelity. It's because the processing system is faulty at the moment. Okay, and I mean that. And I love the brain. Okay, it's not faulty in a way that it's actually letting you down. It's trying to help itself process this enough to come out the other end. We don't choose images. Okay, we don't choose visualizations. That's why, as a therapist, I try and get couples not to share detail. Once the detail is imprinted, it's there. And these are the images that you can wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. You've been crying in your sleep unknowingly, and you wake up and you're having palpitations and you really think that the affair is still carrying on. This trauma is really there for you. But our brain is doing its job, and it will respond to the information in front of it. So the information you're feeding it, it will respond to it in the way that it needs to. Let me just talk about the infidelity. The person who's had the infidelity is running scared. Okay, they are going to be hypervigilant themselves. There will be a process for them watching every move you make, every sound you make, every syllable you make, every decision that you make. Because what they're recognizing is that I might be losing the best thing I've ever met, married, been in love with. It seems like it's all falling apart. So they will be in that place. And I really get that. Actually, somebody that's been told that their partner's had an affair, we won't care too much about that in the very beginning. But that process is going on for the other person as well. So when I see my clients individually, I can really hear the fear in the person that's had the infidelity. What have I done? How could I have done this? I can see the hurt. I can see my failings. What have I done? And they're not really going into victim mode. I can hear and feel the fear that's coming off them. They have just blown up the whole situation that they were able to create. I talk about empires. You build your empire. What are you going to do to sabotage it? If you really want it, you'll not sabotage it. You might also be having an affair because actually you want to end the relationship. So these are the different things that we look in therapy. Is there a reason why you had this infidelity, or is it an unmet need that you had for yourself? So think about, as a child, we all have unmet needs. We all have attention deficit in some way, shape, or form. We might even have neglect. We might have abuse. Is there something that fulfilled that need in that other person that you met that actually you didn't get from the child that you were? And it might not be anything that you weren't getting from your partner. A lot of people say to me, I love what we've created. I love what we do. I love how we have sex together. I love how we make love. I love that you're the partner to me and my children, mother of my children. We're not sitting in a place of, because of you, I did this. Yeah. And a lot of, predominantly women more than men, will say, what was it I've done to get you to do that to me? Remember, it's not been done to you. It's been hurt, has been given to you, but they've not done it to you. Their integrity actually, in my words, is in tatters at the moment. So we've got to find the value systems for both couples to find out how we can get you back online with each other. Because value systems are about honesty, integrity, trustworthiness. And if our value system is eroded for some reason, whatever, we cannot blame our partner. We need to come back into that arena and go, okay, what's happened to me? Why have I done this to myself? It's affected a number of people, but why did I do this to myself? How am I feeling at the moment? And I'm talking about shame. I'm not talking about victim here. We're not going into a narrative where they're going, I didn't mean to do it, or if I had more sex with my relationship, and that we're not doing victim mode. Okay. Even though you might not get what you want in a relationship, you've got to talk about it. You don't go off and do the same or similar with someone else to fulfill that void. So yeah, this is where I am with it all at the moment. So high rates of infidelity at the moment, and has been for a long time. And if you look back, I'm talking about centuries ago, infidelity was part of the process of different things, but actually still in 9 countries it's forbidden and there's a death penalty. So we get off very lightly in some way, shape or form compared to other countries. I'm in Morocco at the moment and men can have 4 wives. And that sounds, oh, how idyllic is that? It's not as idyllic as you think it is. So we've been talking to the Moroccan men, and for those women, they need to be a sacrifice, so a house, set them up, look after them and everything. So it's not a free for all and have lots of fun. It's actually a sacred bond that they share with how many wives that they have, and they set them up and look after them. So we're looking for safety, complete safety in a relationship, and that will wane every now and then. There will be scary times, but infidelity, for me, working with couples, it can be the most difficult time. I don't want to end on that because I think it's really important that I share with you some of the resources that you can do to help yourself if this is happening to you right now. And obviously I can't tell you clients that come through this in the way that come, and I wish I could celebrate them in person with other couples to say there's opportunity for change, there's opportunity for growth. Actually have another relationship with the same person, but make the script what you want it to be. Because a lot of couples say to me, we've been sleep living, sleep dreaming, sleep eating, sleep relationship. They've just realized that actually it's meaningful. There's significance within this relationship. Can't just wander into it and then hope for the best that it will survive. We've got to be intentionally and reactively in the relationship. So if this is happening to you right now, completely have total empathy for what's going on. And I'm neutral as a therapist. So if you both come to see me, I would be able to hold both of you in different ways because it's a different cycle going on for both of you. But I want you to think about what actually you could do. So because the outcome, if you decide to stay together, is, and I'll say the words, absolutely delicious, because you won't talk about anything as hard as this in the lifetime that you have with each other. This is so difficult to talk about. And if you can do it, and I get couples and they go, we have never had these chats. We are talking about all sorts of things from the past, from the death of parents to child death to miscarriage. They have absolutely opened their hearts out to each other, and they feel so close to each other. And it gives them the opportunity to bring that intimacy, total intimacy back on board. So I'm just going to look at this a minute and give you an opportunity. So if you are struggling at the moment, I think a good idea would be engage in therapy. Okay. Like myself, there's other people who can give you homework to do to go back into it slightly, but the whole point is to take you forward. Yeah. Then I want us to all practice how we can regulate our nervous system. Our nervous system is always on high alert because it's here to help us. But if we've got no co-regulation, we've got a high threat, our body is just not coping in the way that it needs to. And the cortisol is times whatever. And we could be looking at, panic attacks and things like that. So we've got to really try and regulate our nervous system. And that can be mindfulness breathing techniques. I'm not a great fan of breathing techniques until about 2 or 3 years ago, probably when I did my hypnotherapy, which actually was longer than that, probably about 7 years ago. And the breath work is so important in many different ways, whether that's panic attacks, sexually, just regulating yourself if you go on stage or a job interview. All of this is necessary, and it gives you the opportunity. And I'm looking at this list to cultivate relationships that are actually looking at themselves differentiated. So you're an I first before you're a couple. So really think about what you need at this time, individually and together. So we need progressive muscle relaxing, so body movement, being in nature, cold water immersions, and aromatherapy. So don't forget, when we go through the grief cycle of infidelity, there will be a part of it that actually isn't very mentioned very often, and it's called depression. Actually, I don't think we go into a massive depression when we're talking about this. I think we're very heightened and alert, but I think we go into languishing. Languishing is a state of apathy, lack of, okay, whatever that might be for you. So some people don't go into a really bad depression, but the languishing, staying in that space of hurt and pain and not being able to move out of it. So we need to be mindful that the bereavement process, okay, I add languishing in because we can stay in it, because sometimes we stay angry so the person doesn't go and do it again. Sometimes we switch off hoping that the person won't do it again. We're not holding them to ransom. Do it again, don't do it again, but I won't be here. Yep. So we're looking at really tight boundaries. Then we need to cultivate relationships with support and non-judgmental people. So you think about your friendship group for a minute. There'll be somebody in that friendship group that will be biased towards infidelity. So maybe not tell them, which will be difficult if you've got a really good couple circle. You might tell some of them, and then some of them you won't tell. Now, don't forget, you're asking these people to not share it with people they know as well. So you need to really think about who you're sharing that with. What we talk out in the arena, once it's out, and you can't take it back. But what we've got to do is, what support can you get? And then we need to have new experiences, go exploring and try new things together. And that won't happen straight away. But what I want to do is find things that neither of you have ever done together. Okay, we're not having an expert and a student. We're actually going to find new things for you to do. That might be pottery, that might be painting, that might be going hiking, it might be, but neither of you are going to be an expert in it whatsoever. You're going to start off from ground level and you're going to work your way up to actually find something for both of you that you both enjoy, to actually start new memories together. And this is possible. Okay, the commitment, you come to therapy, is, I'm not going to say it's easy because it isn't easy, but if you're languishing outside of the therapy space, then really think about coming to see me or other therapists to get some guidance with infidelity. Okay, it's been great to speak to you. I'm not going to do an hour tonight. I think I've said everything I need to do. So to all the beautiful couples out there, if you're having a great time, that's great. If you're really struggling at the moment, please come and talk to me. I do a 15-minute free consultation by phone or Zoom. Come and let me know how you are. I'd be really interested to find out. Thank you.